Hello, and welcome to Economics 101, Principles of Microeconomics at Thomas More. My name is Melanie Fox, and I am the creator of this course. This introductory video is meant to introduce you to this course, give you an idea of what to expect over the next 6 weeks, and a little bit about how this course was created. So as a brief outline for this video, first we'll do a little bit of introductions, talk about what the purpose of the course is, what the layout of the course is, and what to expect. And then we'll talk about some general tips and recommendations to be successful in this course. So welcome to the course. My name, again, is Melanie Fox. I have a PhD in economics from the University of Houston. I have been an associate professor of economics at Thomas More for a couple of years at the time of the creation of this course. I also am in educational technology. I have been a consultant for a few educational technology firms and have guided the content creation for a number of economics courses. Additionally, I've been in higher education since 2002, teaching a variety of courses in economics, everything from principles of microeconomics and macroeconomics to health economics, development economics, research methods, game theory, and actually pretty much any course I've been asked to teach along the way. To give you an idea of how this course was created, to give you a little bit of background and understanding of why this course will progress in this way, this course started with a series of learning objectives. A learning objective is an idea that any student who is taking this course should be able to demonstrate by the end of the course. So I start with a series of learning objectives that match an economics course that would be taught on the ground. And then I curated a series of materials to mimic that on-ground experience as closely as possible. So those curated materials will include videos, but also some practice that I've created to supplement that. So practice, homework, and a variety of assessments that are all aligned directly with learning objectives. So anything you see along the way in this course will be aligned with those learning objectives. Those curated materials, like the videos, have been carefully selected to ensure they are accurate and from highly credible sources. Now, the purpose of this course is to give you a solid background in microeconomic theory and prepare you for future courses in economics. This is a required course for most business degrees at most colleges and universities. Now, again, this is an introductory course. It assumes that you don't have any background in economics. However, it does assume that you have a background in math that will allow you to do things like graph in 2 dimensions. So if you recall the Cartesian plane from a previous math class, we will be heavily using that during the course. But the primary purpose of this course is to make you understand how individual agents make decisions. So what we mean by an individual agents are individuals like people, also households like groups of people, and firms. So microeconomics is a study of individual decision making. A future course that you will take later in your college career is Economics 102, Macroeconomics, which is the study of larger decision making. So for example, how entire countries decide how to allocate resources. Now let's move on to the layout of the course. So this course is currently organized into 6 modules. Each module represents 1 week of your course. Those 6 modules include, first, basic concepts and markets. This is a foundational module for the course that much of the rest of the course will build on. So in this first module, we'll develop some of the basic ideas of how economists think, what motivates how we think about economic problems, and also how markets operate. So if you're familiar with anything from economics, you've probably heard the phrase supply and demand, so that's what will get us solid grounding in that first week. In week 2, we deepen that economic toolkit by adding a few tools that you might not be familiar with, such as elasticity and welfare analysis. Once we've deepened that toolkit, we'll move on to consumer theory, understanding what motivates why people buy and how they make the best decisions for themselves given the constraints that they have. In week 3, we start a 2-week sequence on producer theory. In week 1, we'll cover costs of production, profit maximization, and the archetypal example of competition, something called perfect competition. In the following week, we move on to imperfect competition. And so the classic examples of that in an introductory microeconomics course are monopolies and 2 types of firms or competition that you're probably not familiar with, monopolistic competition and oligopoly. In week 5, we move on to abandoning the assumption that maybe markets aren't always perfect. So we talk about market imperfections, when markets fail, and how regulation might solve some of those problems. Finally, we finish up the course in week 6 by talking about factor markets. So as you'll learn, factors are the factors of production: land, labor, capital, and technology. We'll talk about how those are also exchanged in markets. And we'll also talk about inequality, how inequality is measured, and then finish up with a review of the entire course. Now let's talk briefly about the time expectations for this course. This time expectation is in line with the expectations of all courses at Thomas More that are online for TAP students. That includes 7 hours of instructional time per week and 14 hours of out-of-class time per week. Those 7 hours of instructional time for this course include videos, something called content engagement, practice, and quizzes that you will take each week. That 14 hours of out-of-class time includes reading, homework, and preparing for those quizzes. Now, one note of caution, your mileage may vary. As in any course, your reading speed and your preparation speed may impact that upward or downward. So to keep in mind that these guidelines are guidelines. As in any course, you should manage your time appropriately based on what you know your abilities are. Now let's talk about the major course elements for the course. Starting with our primary instructional type of content, which are videos. These videos have come from a variety of sources, but all of them are credible, well-known, and well-vetted. They're also done by people who are all qualified to teach economics at the college level. There are 3 primary sources for those videos. First, videos that I've made myself. Second, Khan Academy. Third, Cohen and Tabarrok's Marginal Revenue University. So the videos from Khan Academy are done by Sal Khan, and those are kind of interesting in that Sal has done a number of videos on a number of topics, but Sal also has an MBA from an Ivy League school and has a background in finance as well. Interestingly about those videos as well is that I created the scripts for quite a number of those videos. So I have personally made sure that the content in those videos is accurate and fully aligned to an economics course. Cohen and Tabarrok are 2 well-known economists that have their own textbook, and they have created a number of very well done videos that are aligned with their own textbook, but also aligned with pretty much any economics textbook that exists on the market. The second key element of the course are practice questions. These are questions that I created for Khan Academy, but some of them are all questions created by Aplia, and that is a company created by an economist named Paul Romer, who developed an online practice platform a number of years ago that I've been using since 2002. The third kind of element is content engagement and the discussion board. Now, we mentioned these briefly before, but the purpose of these are to give you the same experience that in-class exercises give. So you can view these as the kind of group work that you would do in a classroom setting if you were taking an on-the-ground class. Make sure to engage with whoever your instructor is about these. These are not meant to be done on your own and in silence and struggle through. You're meant to engage with your instructor about these with any questions that you have, much in the same way that you would raise your hand in a classroom. The fourth key element are your reading assignments. These are from your textbook, which give you the opportunity to engage more deeply with the concepts and reinforce understanding of the material. Now, in a traditional classroom setting, what most professors would do is expect you to read the assignment before lecturing. I find that it's a lot more useful in an online setting to watch the videos first and use that as the basis for understanding the reading material, and then use the reading as an opportunity to really deeply understand what's going on. That way you get an introduction to a concept that could be quite challenging at times from something that's a little bit more approachable than a textbook, and then use the textbook to really solidify your understanding. The next important element is your homework. The homework is graded, and this is meant to develop your ability to apply the concepts. Finally, each week you will have a quiz. This is essentially a unit test. This quiz tests your understanding of the material, and this is a major component of your grade for the course. The layout of the course is a linear progression. So as you move through the course, everything that you will see on Canvas will be in the order in which I recommend that you do this course. The only exception to this would be if you feel that you understand material better if you do the reading first and then watch the videos. So general tips for being successful in this course, or pretty much any economics course that you will ever take, are, first of all, anytime you see a graph, you should be drawing a graph. In fact, do it twice. That means if you see a graph in a video, you should be replicating it on paper. If you see a graph in a textbook, you should be replicating it on paper there too. The second general recommendation is to take notes while watching videos in the same way you would in a classroom setting. One of the things I recommend doing at the end of every video is a process I call whiskey. What that means is for every video that you do, you should watch the video while taking notes, and then at the end of the video, take a few minutes to summarize the content you saw. That doesn't have to be complicated, just a bullet point of 5 or 6 major points or major ideas or key equations or graphs that you saw in that video. Then second, after you've done the summarization, write down any questions that you have on that video and submit them to the discussion board for the module in question. So for example, let's say you get to a video on markets and what happens when supply and demand changes. And you get a part of the video that says that it looks like price doesn't change, but to you it does look like price doesn't change, and you're a little bit confused about that. So in that case, you would go to the Module 1 discussion board and post a question about that video to your instructor. And then finally, create your own example. If there's a video on markets and it's talking about what happens when the demand for something changes, create your own example of something that would change demand and sketch it out. The other key recommendation for this course is to take notes while reading. Many people like to highlight while they're taking notes during reading assignments, but highlighting itself is not enough. Highlighting is saying, hey, this was an important thing to read, you should read it again. The thing is, if you're reading something and you're reading it again, that begs the question, why are you reading it twice? Wasn't once enough? In this case, the answer is no. One of the interesting things about our brains is that we tend to retain information better if we engage two different parts of our brain while accessing material. So for example, if you read something and write it, you're using two different parts of your brain to engage with that material, and you will be more likely to write it. So if you have the temptation to highlight a key phrase, rather than highlight it, write it down on a piece of paper. Those notes that you take will also help you prepare for those quizzes each week. Probably the most important suggestion for this course and any other course is to ask questions. The only dumb question is the question you do not ask. And then finally, manage your time. 21 hours per week is quite a lot, and this can be a very challenging course. So try to avoid the temptation to procrastinate. Okay, if you have any questions, post them in the discussion board, and we will see you in the course.